Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something that is, quite literally, the invisible backbone of almost every company you've ever worked for: Active Directory. You can think of it like a secret digital phone book for the entire organization. And we're about to find out just how powerful that phone book really is. But hey, before we dive deep, let me ask you a question. When you log into your work computer, or you try to access a shared folder, or even just print a document, have you ever stopped to think where all that information about you, your username, what you're allowed to see, your digital identity, where does it all actually live? Well, the answer to that question actually solves a huge problem. I mean, just imagine a company with hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. Every single person has a computer. You've got dozens of printers, shared files everywhere. How in the world do you keep track of all of that? That right there was the digital identity problem. And all that chaos really boils down to four main headaches. First, how do you even store everyone's information? Second, how do you find anybody or any device on the network? Third, how do you manage who gets access to what? Creating new accounts, updating them, getting rid of old ones without it being a total mess. And finally, the really big one, how do you prove that people are who they say they are? Before a central system, this was an absolute security nightmare. So to fix all of this, Microsoft came up with a solution that was kind of brilliant because it was based on a super simple concept. They just created a digital version of something everyone already got, a phone book, and they called it Active Directory. And the whole idea is so simple because we already know how it works. A classic phone book. It has your name, your number, your address. Well, Active Directory just takes that and modernizes it for a digital network. It's got your username, your computer, what permissions you have, and what printers you can use. It's like a supercharged, high-security phone book for the entire company. And listen, this is not some brand new piece of tech. Active Directory has actually been around since 1999, launching with Windows 2000 Server. And over the years, it's just evolved, gotten more powerful, more integrated, and it is still a core part of modern Windows Server today. The fact that it's stuck around this long really tells you how well it solved that original problem. This central role is what makes Active Directory so incredibly important. Because it holds all of this information in one single place, it becomes what everyone in IT calls the single source of truth. So what does that really mean, source of truth? It's actually pretty simple. For pretty much every corporate network out there, if a user account or a computer isn't an Active Directory, then as far as the network is concerned, it just doesn't exist. AD is the final, definitive record of everything. Okay, so what exactly lives inside this directory? Honestly, everything. We are talking about all the users, different groups you can put them in, every single computer, every printer, all the applications they can access, and even the security policies that control the whole shebang. It really is the central hub. But look, having all that information is totally useless if it's just a jumbled mess. The real magic of Active Directory comes from its logical, organized structure, which makes managing thousands of different things not just possible, but actually pretty efficient. And it does this using a tree structure. Now, at the heart of this whole organizational system are these things called organizational units, or OUs for short. And honestly, the best way to think about an OU is just as a container. It's like a folder you can use to group similar things together, like all the people in the sales department or all the computers in the main office. So here's how you actually build that tree out. At the very top, you've got your whole company. That's the root. From there, you branch out into OUs for your big departments like sales and IT. And then inside those departments, you can get even more specific with OUs for different teams like engineers or the help desk. It just mirrors the real company structure, which makes it super intuitive to manage. So why is grouping things like this so important? It all comes down to policies. With OUs, you can apply a rule, like, say, a really strict password requirement, or blocking certain websites to an entire group all at once. So you can give the engineering team one set of rules and the sales team a totally different set, and manage it all from one spot. It's a game changer. Okay, so we've got this perfectly organized, super secure directory of everything. But how do other applications actually talk to it, right? How does your email program ask Active Directory to check if your password is correct? Well, the answer is a special language, a protocol called LDAP. Yeah, LDAP stands for Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. But you can forget all that. Just think of it as the standard language that applications use to talk to directories. It's the universal messenger that lets them ask questions and get answers from Active Directory.
To make this super clear, let's use a quick analogy. I want you to picture Active Directory as a giant, deep well, and this well holds all the valuable user data for the whole organization.
Now, think of an application. Maybe it's some new software you need to log into. Think of that as an empty glass. It needs some of that water, some of that user data from the well to work properly. So, how does the glass get the water from the well? It uses a tap. And in our world, LDAP is that tap. It's the protocol that gives an application a clean, secure way to get the exact information it needs from Active Directory without having to dive into the whole well itself. And hey, for those of you who are curious, here's a little technical detail. This communication happens over specific network ports. You can see standard LDAP uses port 389, but for a secure, encrypted connection, which is what you really want, it uses something called LDPS on port 636. That encryption is absolutely crucial for protecting sensitive data.
All right, so let's bring this all home and talk about why understanding this stuff matters so much right now. Active Directory and all of its core ideas, they are the absolute foundation of all modern identity and access management, or what we call IAM.
I mean, just look at the modern tools we use. You look at a cloud tool like Okta, its universal directory is built on the exact same principles as Active Directory. You hear people talk about role-based access control in a tool like SailPoint. That's just a fancy modern version of using OUs and policies. And even the cloud giants like AWS and Azure, they offer their own directory services that are fundamentally doing the exact same thing.
And here's the real key takeaway. We might have moved from having physical servers humming away in a closet to using these massive cloud services, but the fundamental idea of a central directory that manages who you are and what you can do, it has stayed exactly the same. The foundation that Active Directory built is still what we're all standing on today.
It all comes down to this really simple, logical chain of thought. If there's no directory, there's no user. If there's no user, there's no identity. And if there's no identity, well, why do you even need all those fancy security tools in the first place? The directory is the absolute starting point for everything. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future. You know, as our digital lives get less tied to one single company's network and our identities move completely into the cloud, what's going to become the next source of truth? What's going to be the phone book for the next generation of how we work? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.